I'm Shanti, everyone, and welcome. Great to see those of you that are able to be here with me live, and also warm greetings to those of you tuning in later on through the YouTube video. If you haven't joined us before, my name is Shailen, and myself and my mother are students of the London Brahma Kumari Centre in the UK. And the purpose of these chit chats is to give the regular students of the Brahma Kumaris a chance to discuss some of the concepts that come up in our main Muralis. And we're going to begin today with a meditation because here in the UK, today is known as Remembrance Day. I don't know if it's the same in your countries, or you probably do it differently in your places. But in the UK, it's a tradition, and it goes back to 1918. The end of the First World War was the signing of an armistice, a peace agreement, which was at 11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month. So currently in the UK, we're just about 11 a.m. and today is the 11th of November. So it's the 11, 11, 11. In the UK is especially Remembrance Day for all of the people who, it's all of those people who've served in armed forces and their families, and also those that have particularly lost their lives. So I'm going to just speak a commentary, and I'd like to invite you all to join me in connecting with Shiv Baba and spreading peace and love and comfort to souls. So I'm not putting any music on because it can sound very odd through Zoom. But if you would like to on your end, of course, you're welcome to. And first of all, we just make ourselves soul conscious. That's always the first step in meditation. We remind ourselves that we are two entities. There's this living, breathing, speaking, doing body. And then there's the battery that enables this robot, this body to move. And I re-identify myself. I remind myself in my mind that I, the soul, am this battery. And this body, this physical identity, is a gift from nature, but it's going to go back to nature. This body doesn't come with me, but I, the soul, am a traveling actor, and I am on this pre-planned journey. And this body, it doesn't come with me. It's only time-bound. This body has a creation, and this body has a distraction. In fact, it just goes back, comes from nature, goes back to nature. It's never really destroyed, just changes back form again. But I am the eternal soul, the child of God. And just as he is a point of light, and the point is an ocean, I, the soul, am a point, and I'm an ocean. And I stabilize myself in this stage of eternity. And I think about all the many roles. There's so much diversity in this drama. Even at this moment, so many souls are playing so many different roles. And some of the roles in the drama involve military service. They involve some level of fighting and violence. That could be defensive, it could be attacking. But in soul consciousness, we know that it's the soul that's our brother. And they're playing a role in the drama. And the subtle message that we give everyone's mind is that no one ever dies. The soul always continues. The body, of course, changes. And it is sad that so many lives get cut short. That is certainly not something that we want to see. However, we are reassured that the soul hasn't been killed. we are reassured that the soul gets another chance, a fresh start. And so with gratitude in our heart and good wishes, we take our mind to Shiv Baba. And he is this detached observer of this cycle. He plays his role at this time. But again, he doesn't really interfere with every soul's role in the cycle. He observes and respects the different roles that souls have to play in the drama. And he's always giving everyone the subtle message of being a soul. And so being a soul means that you're never really the roles that you play. And he reminds us, this is what you lost. You lost this big awareness, very important awareness of being a soul. And so we think about all of these souls that have played these roles, and they might be carrying different traumas. They've seen violence, they've been violent. That definitely goes against the original nature of the soul. As we know, our greeting is Om Shanti. I am peace. The original nature of the soul is to be peaceful. And so when we go against that, it's definitely going to leave a trauma inside. And so we direct Baba's love to all of the brother souls holding these traumas. And we have the thought and we have the feeling in our heart that we want that to be washed away. And it's only God's love and God's light that can wash away such traumas. And we think to ourselves that we thank you for your service, but we hope you don't have to do it again. Because we had enough of these cycles of violence, this period of continual accounts of loss, bringing more loss, bringing more loss. And we want the age to change now. We had enough of the Iron Age. And so our message to all souls' subconscious mind is now it's time to change the age. It's time to go home. Let's do things differently now. Om Shanti. So thank you all for joining me in that meditation. For those of you who came in a little late, it's Remembrance Day in the UK for military personnel, because it's the 11 a.m. of the 11th day of the 11th month when the First World War peace treaty was signed. And so we celebrate it today. And for us as Brahmins, we look at things in an unlimited way. So Baba always makes us soul conscious. When we were devotees, we feel the sorrow of these days, don't we? We sort of, it emerges our own sorrows. But now Baba makes us soul conscious, and we don't do it from that space of sorrow. We do it from the space of service. We do it from this, but we can actually do something for those souls. When we're devotees, we can't really do anything for these souls. But now, Shiv Baba's remembrance can actually help souls. So we're very fortunate to be empowered with that. And it's something which I do every day, actually. I spend a few minutes having some yoga, having some remembrance of Shiv Baba for the in-between souls. So souls who've just left their body, and they're probably quite confused or shocked or traumatized. And so I feel it's important to send them light and reassurance and peace, and now time to go. Move on. Don't hang on to the past. Important to move to your next role. So I think souls experience that as like some light guiding them. It's a very common near-death experience, that there's some light. I was going towards a light. They feel that. And Baba explains that this is Baba's remembrance. So Baba's remembrance sends this light to guide souls. So it's something you could all experiment with as well. So thank you. Now let me hand over to any of you. If any of you would like to ask anything or say anything, please feel welcome to do so.
Om Shanti Brother Shailen. I have a question. When a soul moves on, leaves a body and goes into another body, Baba says in about 3 or 4 months, a soul enters the womb. And we have, somewhere I've heard in the past that a child from the age of 1 to age 5, the possibility is for them to remember a past life. So a soul that has moved on and is now maybe around 1 year old, would that soul be able to communicate with souls from past life?
Yes, it's possible. It probably has to come under that category of unexplained, of a bit of a mystery. I'm not sure it's something you can research because the babies are just so small, aren't they? And we can't really talk to them and ask them, and they are not able to comprehend. But it does make sense what you were saying, because I think there is a transition for sure where the soul is not quite adopted their new role, because particularly in the womb for sure, because the soul hasn't been born yet, the fetus isn't fully developed. They would begin that connection with the mother, but it's not quite there yet. So probably they're still facing backwards a little bit and still looking at that previous identity. And of course, we know from Baba that souls do settle accounts and they're facing things from the past then. And then once they're born as well, of course, babies do sleep a lot. I mean, they have to, that's just nature. And you think that probably during that sleep, the soul might be still having some memories of the past. That's quite possible. Certainly from what we've seen in the BK world, sometimes Bapdada sends back the soul into a trance messenger to meet us. Like we had it with Daddy Prakash Mani about 15 years ago, something like that, 10, 15 years ago. And I noticed that she only came for the first few years, like until the child was about 3 or 4, like you're saying, up until 5, and then not anymore. So maybe that's an indicator that for that soul, then the new identity is much more firm, and so on. So it does make sense to me, what you're saying. Do you want to come back on?
Yes, because now my husband left body December 1st. So around this time, he is almost 1 year old, wherever he is. And recently, I mean, when he left, he disappeared and I didn't have thoughts of him. But suddenly I began to have this obsession, like remembering, like the connection. And I was wondering, what was happening. And sister was telling me, my sister Lynette was telling me, Judy, get some fruits and something and offer Bo so that it can have, he can be released and move on. So I thought of, I did what she
Yes.
told me to do.
Yes, I see. So there's two things here. One is about moving on, and the other is about the connection with relatives or friends who have then left their current body and gone on. So one thing we have to remember is that when it's to do with the connection with the soul, it doesn't end with death. So we will continue to be connected with those souls, even if they move into their next life. This week I was sharing a story in the morning around Brother Ramesh's experience with that millionaire brother in Mumbai. And if you, I don't know if you heard that, but it was linked with this brother who was a millionaire and he left the body suddenly and he hadn't used everything in a worthwhile way for Baba's task. So Baba at that time, he's Dharamraj. Dharamraj means the supreme accountant. He's an accountant. He's just saying to us, like, it's not a judgment, but it's like just the accounts. You accumulated this much, this is what will happen. It's just very plain and simple. Like accountants, they don't talk in emotions. Now, Baba is our father, teacher, and Satguru. So he's helping us, he's kind, he's patient. But after we leave the body, it's not any of that. It's just very plain and simple. He puts it in front of us. This is what you did. This is what you didn't do. This is now the result. So that's what he does. And so this had happened to this brother, and Baba actually sent him back into the body of the trance messenger to share that experience. And he, of course, said, oh, send me back, I'll sign, I'll tell my children to put everything. And Baba said, you can't do that then. You've left now. And what authority do you have anyway to do that sort of thing? And you've got to do it while you're alive. Then it's yours, and you can do what you want to do with it and make your own choices. But afterwards, the karma is already set. That's it. This is what will happen. But what Baba did say in that was that if your relatives use some of your property and wealth for Baba's service later on, then that karma will reach you in your next life. And so this is what we do. So, for example, Ranjan Ben had 5 brothers. Only 2 are left now. So 3 have left the body. And pretty much with all of them, she has been consistently that. And like one of them, we used to live with him. And then that house, we turned into Baba's school. So from the beginning, we've been very conscious of that you've got a responsibility to carry on creating the good karma for those souls. And they weren't BKs. So our job is to create that indirectly. And I think what happens is that because we connect their karma with Baba and Baba's task, their intellect opens up in their next life, and something in that karma then attracts them to go in whatever birth they're in. They'll find their nearest center. They'll watch Baba's knowledge on YouTube or something. There'll be something, because the karma influences the intellect. And so very like subconsciously, they are being influenced to connect with Baba. So that's what we've got to do. That's the most important thing we can do. So this is why we do, it's not, you can offer bhog, and how we would do it, you can offer bhog at home, or like we might send a little bit of money to the center and say that. So for example, we were in New York and Chicago, New York in April. And April is the anniversary of Ranjan Ben's father leaving the body and her youngest brother. So the youngest brother left 14th April and the father left the body on 22nd April. So Ranjan Ben gave some money to Mary Ben, who runs the center in Chicago. And we were with them for the Sunday class and Sunday bhog offering. And we said we would like all of the Brahmins fed in the remembrance of these. So those souls will then get the karma. And because it's Baba's children, it gets multiplied for them. in that way. So that you can do it that way. And then with other things as well, like sometimes, like with you and your husband, it was probably like a joint property, joint sort of wealth or something. It probably wasn't distinguished or things. So in that way, you know, we've mutually benefited sometimes from relatives in that way. So it's part of our responsibility to then just continually try and use something. Yesterday, we had a lovely visit from three of the sisters from the nearby centers. And one of the sisters, she's moved into another apartment, and she was saying that she doesn't have gas there, it's only electric and things. So Ranjan Ben had the thought that her brother, who lives upstairs in this house, he has this rice cooker and steamer that's an electric plug-in. So she asked him in the morning that, you know, the sister is coming, can we use it? And he said yes. So he had that. So he won't understand what's going on here and what's the importance of all of this. But that item has gone into the center. That sister will make bhog and things ongoing, and that. So he will receive whatever is the blessing and the fortune of that. So it's part of our role. I was visiting one center a few months ago, and here in the UK, and there were two. I was talking with two sisters. They're both quite old BKs, and they were sharing with me. So one sister was sharing with me the story that she came to Baba just about the same time as her husband, and I think it was also her brother, just in short time period. They both left the body. And her brother also has children, I think, and she also has children, but they're all grown up. They're like 30 years old or something, 40 years old. So they're quite independent anyway. It's not like they really are desperate for things or very needy for things. So what she felt was that, you know, it would be better if she can use that wealth and property for Baba's service. So what she did was she sold her brother's house, made sure that his children were fine, and then bought a bhavan. And I think it's 4 or 5 BKs. They're living near, right opposite Baba Center in that city. And she also lives in that bhavan, and they've got other. So that's been there for like 20 years, and it's a very useful accommodation space as people come and go. So I said to her, I think that's just really smart, because what she did was she saw there's a need there at the center. There's always usually a need for some accommodation. And then it's also, you know, there wasn't really a need in that family for that. And she's thinking about the future of her brother's soul. And definitely for all these years, that soul will be receiving a share of all of that fortune into his account. And maybe he's now a BK, who knows? Who knows what soul's roles are? But the karma will definitely help him in one way or another. And I was sharing with the sisters yesterday that many of you will remember that Ranjan Ben's youngest brother, the one who left the body on 14th April, he was one of those first victims of COVID. And when he left the body, Baba had sent a message to Ranjan Ben. And those early days, it was like a time of great fear, you'll all remember, and no one really knew what was happening. It was very, very chaotic. So when he had diabetes as well, so when someone like that goes into hospital, you're not expecting good news because people were not coming out. So for that 1 week he was in hospital, we were getting up at 3 a.m. and having 3 to 4 yoga for that soul. And then he left the body about in the 8th day after that. And then Baba had sent a message for Ranjan Ben. And what Baba said in the message, well, he was not a BK, but the scene was, he was standing there and this point of light began coming towards him. And he said, oh, this is such beautiful vibrations. And he put his hand together and bowed in front of the great light. And then Baba said to Ranjan Ben that her brother always had this sanskar of giving. And so because he has this sanskar of giving, Baba is going to accept his things and create his fortune. And because his sister was having yoga for him for those days, and Amrit Vela yoga, in his final moments, even though there was this atmosphere of fear in the world, he left the body with no suffering and no experience of death. He just left his body very easily because he was supported by that yoga power. So we have a responsibility towards all of our relatives. We have to give either powers to the mind. Often they're not interested in knowledge through words. That's not the right way to serve them. So it's powers through the mind and virtues through actions. These are the ways. And if we can utilize resources for Baba's task. So these are the ways we do it. And I was sharing with the sisters yesterday for that uncle. When I was 18, 19 years old, I passed my driving test at 17. This is the minimum age in the UK to be able to drive a car. And initially, my father had given me a car, or my auntie had given me a little car, and then that one needed to be replaced after a couple of years. And of course, as Brahmins, we're always just doing service with these things. And it was this uncle who wanted to buy me a car. And I asked Jendiben that, should I accept this or will it be a karmic account? And she said, oh no, you must accept it because this is something in the drama to create their fortune. And, you know, that car, I must have done so many airport trips, bringing Brahmins. I must have visited every center in the UK in that car. And so I just went everywhere in service. And then look, all 20 years later, 25 years later, when it was that soul's time to leave the body, look how much help he got. It was like the karma that he had created by purchasing that car, it came back to him and continues to help him, I'm sure. So a connection doesn't end with death. And this is why we have traditions. I think it exists in most of the major faiths and probably other faiths as well. But in Hinduism, you might be familiar with this, I don't know if it's called a festival or it's like a period of the calendar called Shraddh. And it differs each year, but it's usually around about July, August, September time, that sort of time period. And that's particularly where relatives make offerings on behalf of their ancestors, and they perform some charity maybe. I think it's something that's done in other faiths at different times in their own way as well. So that understanding has remained in Bhakti. But because we're body conscious, we're thinking about the body, of course, and we're thinking about it as a bodily relation. So what Baba wants us to do is make that switch. So it's not about that soul moving on. There's a soul that's already moved on. They've forgotten us. But what it is about us understanding the responsibility to our brother soul. And because there's been a particular relation with us in this lifetime, we should do as much as we can for them on their behalf. So if there is anything of theirs that remains in your house or things like that, you could offer it to the centers if there's anything that's useful to them. You can think about different ways. And if the centers don't need anything or that's there, you could do it for other charities. So they would still receive that. With Baba, he multiplies it, so it's just better. It's a better deal. But it's still, any charity is valuable, isn't it? So it's still worth doing. Baba tells us, doesn't he? Someone performs charity in an education sense, they get that. And if someone performs charity in a health sense, they get that. So that's the thing about charity. It's category specific. When we give into Baba's task, he does the whole thing. So the soul will get the karma for everything, all categories. And that's why it's better. We try and do it that way. But sometimes, the center doesn't need these things. So then we try and do it like we got old clothes, we got other things. One thing Devi Janki was quite strict on in terms of moving on was not hanging on to the clothes and possessions of those relatives for too long, because this is something that we do, because those clothes and those possessions, they're like touchstones, they're filled with memories. And so we can get into so many emotions that are linked with these possessions. And when Sister Jayanti's mother left the body, the first thing that Devi Janki instructed her father to do was give all of the possessions to charity. He said she doesn't want him sitting around in that house just lamenting his wife for the next 20 years. He said, no, that soul has moved on. You have to now let go. So the letting go is not that soul letting go. The letting go is us. And so she was quite strict. Like Daddy was very direct. So she just said, everything has to go. I'll give you 1 month. Everything. Nothing, not even one sari. So she made him use everything. I don't know if the centers could use those things, maybe, but otherwise she said it goes to charity. And so then I think he even sold that house and then came to live in the UK. They were living in India before. So he just had that fresh start for the rest of his life. And it's not that we forget those souls. It's that we do have to move on from those emotions. And we ourselves have to remember Baba, of course. So it's much more that pragmatic mindset of how can we use karma to benefit ourselves and benefit those souls. Salwabed, did you want to come in?
Brother Shilan, before I'm so sorry to interrupt, but you know something, you gave me an understanding. You gave me an understanding that I did something that I didn't realize what I was doing because I spoke with Bomi and I sent money for Sister Mohini to offer both. And I know with your understanding, I understand what I did was so valuable. I didn't realize it then. You also said something about the clothes because he was 83 and he gave me a dream and he said to me, Judy, don't keep the clothes. Give all my clothes to some old people. That's what he said. And he had so much clothes that I don't think he even knew how much clothes he had.
Mm.
So everything you just said made so much sense. I did speak with Bobby and I sent some money. I sent money because in the end he was a Christian, but in the end he just loved to listen to Sister Mohini. And that is when I said, I'm going to have to let her do something for him. So you know what? You gave me so much peace and understanding as to what I did. And I didn't even really know what I was doing was so important. Om Shanti.
Giving those clothes away is very important because, I mean, in all of our countries, it's a problem. But when I saw in Chicago, in New York, how many homeless people, they're rough sleeping, they need the clothes. Us keeping clothes and we don't even need them, that's totally wrong. These people are sleeping on the streets in the cold. Let them use the clothes. Let other people use the clothes. That is absolutely the right thing to do, and the soul will get the karma. And then what you can do every year is send some on the anniversary day. You can even tell all your relatives, let's all put a little bit of money together and we'll offer this bhog in memory of him and ancestors. And what Baba does, when you offer bhog like that through the center, Baba will emerge that soul in the subtle region while they're sleeping in their next life. And he will have if he's a Christian soul, he will have the experience that he's meeting Christ and that Christ is feeding him. So Baba gives the devotees the experience of their faith in that way. So you carry on doing it, but try and get all of your relatives to contribute a little bit, because it's good for all of them to have a seed into the yajna. It will come, the karma will come back to them as well. Sullivan, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, Om Shanti Divine Family, thank you for this valuable information. I I was thinking of the impact of those souls who are not Brahmins, but who contribute in a material way. Like for example, the son of Brahma Baba, Narayan. Hey, those souls, who are they, and are they really coming to the golden age, even if they are not really, Brahmin souls? I mean, what is the contribution of money to establish Baba's kingdom for souls who do not follow the Srimat of Baba and, you know,
Yeah. Yes, thanks. Great question. So there are some souls who belong to another religion completely. And then there are some souls who belong to the Brahmin and deity religion. And both can be cooperative souls rather than yogi souls. So if it's someone who is just a soul of Islam, a soul of Christianity, and that, then they will come after their religious father, like after their founder comes, and they will have that role in the drama. They wouldn't come into the golden age. But if they've contributed something into Baba's task now, it will definitely come back to them now. Like I mentioned about my uncle's experience at the time of death and things. So it will actually help them now in their future role. And we know it's the end of the Iron Age, so many challenges are going to come to everyone. And many souls, many devotee souls, they're very good devotees. So Baba will be supporting them. And what happens? He tells us that at the time when some big mountain of sorrow is about to fall on them, he protects them at that time. He shields them. So inside, they don't suffer if anything is going on. So there'll be very, very subtle returns for the souls who belong to the different religions who are cooperative. And then there will be souls who are part of the Brahmin and deity religion who will come to the golden age. And Baba talks to us about three, I don't know if we call them levels or categories. I think you can move from one to the other. So it's probably levels and categories. So they're not like defined and fixed, but they're like movements and levels. So one is a cooperative soul. It's a yogi soul. So there are many of them, and they're like you described. They might not be very interested in morally. They might not really understand. They might not even really understand what's going on. But they know this is something good. And so they contribute to it. Some, they also have a particular love for a particular being. So what attracts them to come, the sister at the center, they really have that feeling for them, that brother, they have a real particular feeling for them. So their connection is not directly with Shiv Baba, but they take something from Shiv Baba through a BK. And so they've got some sort of connection, which is a bit indirect still, but they're cooperative because of that. And some of these sisters, some of these daddies and didis, they're really experts at how to utilize this because they serve that soul and they develop Baba's service further for other souls through that. So there are many such souls like that. And in recent decades, we've even had big politicians be so cooperative. So it came up a few weeks ago in the Sunday Morally, because in the video it showed it. But you might recall this is all the phase where Baba opened Gyan Sarovar. It was a new complex, and then Baba is establishing the complex at Shantivan. So all of these things are happening. And the governor of Rajasthan met Bapdada. So he was the soul who enabled all the planning permission to go through and all of the cooperation. And then that brother, that governor, he transferred, I think he might have originally been from that state of Andhra Pradesh, which is sort of south central India. It's where Hyderabad is. You might be familiar. It's a famous city. It's like a technical, very technological city, and a very historic city as well. And he went back there and became the governor of there. And when he went there, and his successor as governor, they both gave free government land to open Baba's retreat center there. So it's really amazing sometimes. You can even have really big level cooperative souls. And then you can have souls who are like on a more day-to-day level, but they're still cooperative in one way or another. Like many people, they don't understand what's going on, but they know we offer bhog and things, so they send fruit for the center. So even on those small levels, it's still very, very valuable. And Baba multiplies everything and gives them back. So I'm very, very confident that those souls would come in the golden age and the silver age, because they planted their seed, they got that love for Baba. I also feel that possibly, like you were referring to Brahma Baba's son, and he had other children as well. Like I saw a video of his youngest daughter being interviewed by a BK. And the brother was, I think it's only in Hindi, but the brother was asking that, did you not feel that pull, like to come and Shri Baba? And she said, no, even till now, she's never had the feeling of Shri Baba or nothing. She likes all the BKs and it's all fine, but it's not for her. So, it's every soul is different, aren't they? So, in that way, she would definitely be cooperative in one way with the center or something like that. Brahma Baba's son was as well. Whereas his eldest daughter was one of our senior daddies, Daddy Nirmal Shankar. She was the daddy of Bengal. So it's everything, everyone is just different. But I feel that those cooperative souls, as long as there's still time to study, maybe in their next life, they do come back and study more, because the karma could open up their intellect. And so Baba was talking to us today as well about the more we remember Baba, the lock on our intellect opens and we understand more. And so maybe in their next life they will. So then the next level or the next category is to be loving and cooperative. And this is where a soul does begin to understand the morally a bit more. So they have love for the morally and love for Baba, and they got more of a recognition. What's going on? Who is Baba? So that's the loving and cooperative children. So pretty much all of the Brahmins, they're in that category. And then the next level, so hopefully everyone in that second category will move to the third category, but not everyone does. And the third category are the souls who become powerful and equal to Bapdada. And that's where the yoga comes in. So many souls, they like knowledge and they love Baba's task, but they don't have that real powerful stage of yoga yet, because yoga is it's a spiritual endeavor. It has to be accumulated over a number of years, and you have to put a lot of attention into it, a lot of practice, a lot of determination. So for many Brahmins, they don't have the courage to do that. And they have a bit of yoga, but it's not really this consistent sadhana, this serious mindedness in their yoga. So they don't develop that yoga power. to become equal to Baba. And we saw that recently, didn't we? Didi Nirmala and her funeral and all of the stages. Like these souls, they've had yoga over a long period of time. So they become equal. We saw that with our senior daddies as well. So they leave like in that karmatit stage, in that angelic stage. And this is our aim. So the practice Baba has given us on Sunday about Karavanhar, that's the practice to get to that third stage. That can I remember that I am this bodiless soul, separate from the body that's performing the actions. So I've got to experience myself being in that center, in that like inside of the diamond, while the body is speaking and doing and performing everything. So that takes attention. I mean, it's nothing more than attention, but it still takes that introspection and that determination to do that. So that's my understanding of the difference. So the souls that become powerful and equal, they would become the rulers. They're like the managers, the leaders of the golden age. Souls who are loving and cooperative, they will be like the people part of everything, like they are now. All the Brahmins are part of so they would also be part of it in the golden age. And the cooperative souls, they would also be then supporting the loving and cooperative souls in the golden age too. Thank you. Thanks, sister. Would anyone else like to come in with any questions or sharing anything?
Yeah, I would like to add just one comment about what you have clarified. Actually, the system that Shiv Baba creates through Brahma Baba is this system of the yagya is really a pre-model of what we will be living in the golden age. It's really something very simple, and it's very clear. And as Baba says, you can create your destiny. You can create whatever you want. So it's nothing. It's very simple.
Yes. And like this morning's morally about Diwali and ending the old accounts and opening up the new accounts. It's really this fundamental question: what do I actually take with me? That most of it we know it's going to just stay here. I will just leave the body. All of these things are just going to be here. So what am I taking with me? And it's something to churn about. What are these new books I'm taking with me? So the account of knowledge and the benefit of knowledge, the karma, the blessings, the yoga power. Like there's a few things that can go with the soul. Like good wishes, all of those things can go with the soul, but not like most of it. So this is really where I got to think, I can create my future, but what actually goes with me? And it's these things. So let's make the most of this, as you say, this opportunity. And this other point linked with this morning's, as I shared in the recording, maybe not all of you have had a chance to listen yet, but I was fascinated by this wording that Baba was using about unlimited loss and this whole cycle of unlimited loss. So the other thing we got to think about is, Baba said to us two Sundays ago, I think it was, that you leave these gates open for Maya. And have a look at these gates. And this is where the loss comes in. So, for example, Daddy Janki used to say and teach this very powerfully, that if I criticize someone, and maybe I appreciate them and I know their virtues, but I just point out one of their defects, and that soul takes sorrow. So maybe I didn't say it to them, I just said it to someone else. But then they heard that this is what I'm saying about them. Then Daddy would say, that soul's taken sorrow, and what will happen immediately in the karma that soul can then no longer see your virtues. They will then, because they've taken sorrow, it triggers them to see your defects. And this is what I think Baba's meaning about unlimited loss. Your loss creates loss. So we opened a gate there. That door was not open. And then suddenly I criticized. I opened a door. And that soul then feels that they got to defend themselves to my criticism. So they begin criticizing me. And I've opened a door to more loss after loss after loss. And you can see how we created these karmic accounts since the Copper Age, like thousands of years. What have we been doing? Just opening these doors to waste, opening these doors to conflict, opening these doors to misery. So it makes sense to me now what Bud is saying, that you got these accounts of unlimited loss. And then, of course, we can see on a more extreme level how violence, then it's just like it leads to more violence. It's just never-ending. War leads to more war. It doesn't end. So it becomes unlimited loss for everyone. The biggest loss is war, isn't it? No one went just losing and losing, everything being destroyed, and just goes round and round and round. So we've got to now think, okay, where am I creating loss? Some of it can be more subtle, like I can be causing loss to myself by being too nice. We can have sanskars of being too nice because we want to make everyone happy, we want to please everyone. That's also damaging. Baba teaches us self-respect. So we have to have this balance in what we are doing. That's also a doorway where we can be too self-sacrificing. We can be, always we're trying to please everyone. Of course, they're never pleased, and they know that we want to please them. So then they will manipulate, subtly, they know how to play games, and you will know from your families and things. So we get ourselves into these things because we open a door. Once you open a door, Maya just walks in. And then this just goes on and on and on. And our Maya walks in, and their Maya walks in, and then everyone is inside of our house. Then, so inside our inner house, inside our outer house, then very difficult to get Maya out, isn't it? Once Maya's in, very difficult to get Maya out. So this is why Baba is saying to us, make something new, open new books. So my message would be, okay, Golden Age is new, but what about today? How can I open a new book? What book can I close today? And what new book can I open today? Maybe I got this habit of just saying something, because most of our test papers are going to be with the people we live with, aren't they? And the people we work with. Usually we all behave much better with people we don't meet that often. But it's going to be the people that we live with and the people we work with. That's where the doors are going to open. So today, let me think, what door am I going to close? Am I hanging on to something of someone? Am I holding on? Is there something where I just got a habit of speaking in a certain way with someone? Or let me change that today. Today, I'm not going to say in that way. Maybe my tone towards this person is a certain way. Today, I'm going to close that book. I'm going to open a new book today. I'm going to speak in a different tone today. And this is how we should think. And remember, the world changes when our sanskars change. There is no other way to change your life. If you want to change your life, you change your sanskars. So this is part of closing books and opening books. Go ahead, sister.
Yeah, please, brother. When you have given the example of Daddy Janki telling if you criticize someone and give sorrow, you are opening a door of loss. Actually, we when we have the knowledge of Baba, of the knowledge that he gives us every time, he gives us also the ability to discern what is right and what is wrong. So he puts us in this process, actually. We can't avoid it. But what I understand now is it's that although you should have the discernment, it is the way to correct that opens doors or or close doors.
Exactly right. So um, I think I put it last week onto the group chat. There was that lecture by Daddy Prakashmani on the power of truth. So I don't know if you got a chance to
Mm.
watch that lecture. And I think we had the Morally that Sunday on that power of truth as well. And what Daddy is conveying is truth has to be managed. That this is the reality of that. You know, the truth can be constructive or it can be destructive. And it's no good us saying this. It's very immature of us if we say, "But I was just speaking the truth." You know, I was just being honest. That's actually immature. Because why were you speaking the truth? What result were you hoping to gain here? And is it your role to speak the truth as well? So I'm also training myself in this. And what Daddy was saying was that Baba has this slogan around, in Hindi it rhymes, truth is satyata and manners are sabhyata. So Daddy says that if you've lost your manners because you were speaking truth, you lost your truth. Because there's no way that person thinks you're truth. There's no way. They just saw your bad manners, that's all. They just think you're rude. They don't think you're true. And so you lost your truth. You lost actually your your authority in that because you lost your manners. So Daddy's main slogan, when she became an angel, she said in the Bhog message through Daddy Gulzar to tell all the Brahmins that her key to becoming an angel was to just give respect to everyone. She said this was the key to everything. Just give respect to every single soul. Doesn't matter who they are, how old, but just keep giving respect. And it makes them light and makes you light. So you become double light. And part of this power to discern, that you see the 8 powers, they work in like pairs as well. So if we got the power to discern, we also need the power to merge. And if we're using one without the other, that can be damaging. So what Baba would say
What
was that
the power to
merge.
manage
No, the
is
power
to
to
adapt,
merge. To merge,
to
yeah.
merge. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So what Baba will say is that you discerned it, but why did you then speak it? You knew it. Baba knows so much about you. He doesn't go around speaking about you. So Baba's got the power to merge. You want Baba to merge everything for you, but you then don't want to merge other people's things. And so Baba will just talk to us like that. He will not accept this reason that Baba, look, I'm speaking the truth. They are like that. He is not interested. He will say, you merge, you tolerate. I told you to tolerate. You tolerate. Why should that be a problem for you? Baba tolerates you. You're happy that Baba tolerates you, and then you can't tolerate other people? That's not acceptable to Baba. So Baba will say, you have to become equal to me. You have to become like me. You have to be ancestors for other souls. So to be an ancestor means to have all these powers and to have all these qualities. This is what it means. So Baba is a role model for how he wants us to be for other souls. So these, you see, the thing about weaknesses is most weaknesses are virtues that are out of balance. Our virtues become our weaknesses. So like truth, I've got a lot of, I think I shared that day in the recording as well, that, you know, we can have a lot of karmic accounts linked with truth. Love is another one. If you look about, I was churning on this a while back, that I think most karmic accounts that we have, they're connected with 3 qualities: truth, love, and power. If you can churn on it yourself. I think all of our karmic accounts, and not just personal, like in the world generally, karmic accounts, they're always connected with these 3 virtues. Karmic accounts linked with truth, karmic accounts linked with love, karmic accounts linked with power. And we have so many sanskars that have become mixed up with these three, because as we've just discussed about truth, it can be damaging. And then it creates so much anger as well, as you see someone lying and you feel the amount of anger you feel when someone's lying about you is nothing. You don't feel angry about other things as much as you do. And Daddy Janki used to joke that someone will be deaf. Most of the time they can't hear you. The moment someone mentions their name, suddenly their hearing is restored. They can hear you from a distance. Are you talking about me? Immediately, she used to joke about this and laugh about this in the classes. That's, we're very sensitive about what others are saying about us, but then we think we can talk about others. I mean, we don't have that right. So we have to be aware about this truth, and a lot of complications, a lot of wars. Think how many wars have been fought on truth. I think how many killings have happened because of truth. And then love, very complex. Like I was saying this morning in the recording as well, like when you fall in love and you have couple, man, that the amount of karmic accounts that are created in that relationship is much more than any other. It's so intense because that attachment is like a big magnifier, like it multiplies everything. Everything becomes more intense. Everything, you feel everything much more. And then it's like husband, wife, and parent, child, right? That's most of our karmic accounts are in these relationships: husband, wife, parent, child. Very, very deep impact on the personality of these relationships. So love, such complex karmic accounts. And then I was giving the example of politicians this morning as well. So we know power. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a politician, but just in a family, everyone's wanting power. Everyone's wanting to win all the time. Everyone's wanting to be in control. In a community, like someone is like just looking after some community center or something, they think they're the king of that community. I mean, how many squabbles happen within little communities, within churches, within temples, and little things. So there's so many karmic accounts surrounding power, power dynamics, manipulation, all of these things that happen. So the more I've churned on it, I've spent years of straightening myself out in relation to these. And I think what Baba expects us to do, he wants us to reach a point where truth, love, and power are just clean and clear. Like they're not being corrupted in the middle. We're just able to express them. And that's that angelic and deity stage.
And how can we balance the power? How can we make use of good power?
Right. So this is why Baba says you've got to become complete with all the virtues and all the powers. So anything missing, it will lead to an imbalance. And this is why it's this study of all of the power. The morally covers everything. It's very comprehensive. And we can't miss anything. Like we can't just we're comfortable doing this and we're not comfortable doing it. We will remain out of balance in something. So we actually have to look at ourselves. And truth is like a broad spectrum. So within that, there are many, many aspects, many, many virtues. Love is a broad spectrum. Power is a broad spectrum. And it comes back down to thinking about, churning about these virtues, churning about the powers, and then actively using them. And Baba explains to us, just as the 5 vices are connected with each other, like one vice brings another vice, one virtue also brings another virtue. So one of the virtues that, I'm still working on it, but I used to do very consciously for a while, is the virtue of patience. And what you'll find is that patience brings many virtues with it. If you just practice patience, and the one power that I'm working on a lot at the moment, I find the power to accommodate involves many powers. Let me just accommodate everyone. So like we might have sanskars of we're sort of like quite fixed in our way of thinking and our way of behaving, and we want others to be in a certain way. But if we just accommodate, or we're insecure if certain circumstances happen, or we need everything in a certain way, a certain timetable, a certain place. But actually, let me just accommodate, see what happens, go with the flow, a little bit, accommodate. And I find the power to merge, the power to tolerate, the power to pack up. Many powers seem to come into that power to accommodate. And many virtues also come into that people of different sun stars, let me work with them, let me accommodate their opinions. I shared this with you the other week as well, that it was in the Morally a few months ago, and I've kept it as one of my thoughts for this year, that I will put it into practice. Baba said, consider the other person's opinion to be your opinion, and do it with that same importance and feeling. Rather than sometimes we can be quite mean-spirited, that I had a different opinion. Okay, we'll go along with your opinion, but we'll soon see that I was right, you were wrong. And we can do it with that. But rather than that, Baba's saying, no, it's as if that opinion is your opinion. So that's all accommodating. It's all about, okay, I don't need to win all the time. I don't need to be right all the time. I don't need to be. That's the other thing Baba's been saying to us a lot, hasn't it? That Brahmins still want a lot of limited name and fame and prestige. But Baba's saying that, look, maybe you could give the lecture, you could speak in the conference, but you gave the opportunity to someone else, and you went into the background and you helped in the background. But Baba's going to put into your account the same amount because he knows you could have done it. So he appreciates you putting others forward. So what did you really lose? You just accommodated that you don't need to be the person in the front all the time. And actually what Baba says is when you put others forward, it's like it's a circle as well. And the others put you forward. Like it's not, people say, okay, now your turn. Why don't you come and speak? And it will happen. It does happen. So in that way, this is the way we have to just use one. So my recommendation is, rather than thinking about many virtues and many powers, choose one. And then as you choose that one virtue and power, you will see many other virtues and powers that get activated through just focusing on one virtue. Patience is a good one. If you choose that one, that will really challenge many sanskars, and it will develop many virtues. Does anyone have any final thoughts or sharings or questions before we stop today? So all that is left for me to do is wish you all a very happy Diwali and give our good wishes. Ranjan Ben is fine, she's with us, but you'd appreciate, we had guests yesterday, so she had a busy day. So she had a bit of a slower morning. So she's not joining us today, but she's doing other things, but she sends her happy Diwali to all of you as well. And I think for us, of course, every day is new. Yeah, so I think let's remind ourselves of this importance. Like Baba said today, what am I finishing today? And what's the newness I'm bringing today? And just through that, it makes that every day enjoyable and something new to work on. And watch how changing your one sanskar changes your drama, changes your work. It does work. I've tried it for myself, and it really does work. So give that a go as well, and have a wonderful Diwali weekend, all of you. Shanti.
Shanti, happy Diwali to all as well. Bye-bye.
Shanti. Shanti.